everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast for Backlog Banter, where us four Backlog boys look at every single Best Picture winner, give them a score, and place them on a big, gigantic list of all the Best Picture winners. And the thing is, we do it in random order, because it's way more fun that way. My name is Timo. Yeah. I'm, of course, joined by Tucker, Tanner, and Abram. And today, we are going back to the late noughties for Slumdog Millionaire, directed by Danny Boyle. This is quite a film. Cashing in, really, on the craze of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from the late 00s, the naughty period.
Mm-hmm. Was that specifically a trend?
Yeah,
I was only, none of us were older than 10.
I agree with the host, so yes, I remember it fondly.
No pushback.
We're going to talk about this movie. We got a lot of stuff to discuss, but before we do that, we do have to remind you of what happened last time on the show, because last time we talked about The Greatest Show on Earth, 1952, from Cecil B. DeMille. We didn't think it was that good. We put it at a score of, let me remind myself what score we gave it. We gave it a 5.2, and it ended up at place number 71. So
that's pretty low, yeah.
That's pretty low. Kind of bottom.
That's one of the lowest shows on Earth.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest. But Slumdog Millionaire might prove to be different. But before that, I do believe there is a featured comment. I was about to call it a sacred comment. It really almost is at this point. Tucker, or anyone, do you have the sacred and featured comment for this week?
Sure. I've got a sacred comment. This is a new term for Quest here, though. Sure. I think it'd be fun if we continued using it into the future. We got a comment from our second child, Dan's, who says, "So, I've always loved this movie, though I do understand it should not have won Best Picture. As you discussed, it was a different time under different circumstances, with TV drawing away movie audiences in droves. Hence, widescreen VistaVision, CinemaScope, and Cinerama. Spectacular was what TV... I think he means spectacle. Spectacular was what TV couldn't recreate. I enjoy the overly dramatic love stories and acting, along with the pageantry of the show and the documentary-like parts. Yes, it is a conglomerate of styles and parts, but it is entertaining. My husband loathed it." So we have a Quest episode here in related film that is testing a marriage, which I think is maybe a first for Backlog Banter. First of many, I hope.
Yeah, first of many. We can only really hope for more at this point.
Where are we starting, boys?
Yeah, who wants to go
after
off,
the sacred comment
and give us a little bit of a plot synopsis on this movie, in case I didn't watch this movie today. I didn't watch it yesterday. I watched it a couple days ago. So maybe let's jog some memories here for our viewers and myself alike. Although I've done my research, I know what happens in the film.
All right. Let me take a crack at a plot synopsis for the film Slumdog Millionaire here. Okay. All right. So we are set in India, of course, and we are following a little boy. Initially, we were following a little boy named Jamal, played by the elite Dev Patel in his first feature film role. He is, the little kid isn't played by him, obviously.
No.
But anyway.
Really crazy de-aging going on there.
Yes. He has a rough life, this Jamal kid. His mother is killed in a sort of religious conflict, and then he grows up in poverty for the rest of his life. He has a relationship with his brother, of course, and also a young girl named Latika. And they get into like child slavery, essentially, is what I would call that. They sort of get pawned off by this guy who like uses them to gather. They panhandle on the streets. They initially escape. They all fall into lives of crime, or Jamal ends up working at a call center until, of course, he decides, I need to go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire to win back Latika. I need to make a bunch of money, need to win back Latika, and he goes on the show, and he does gangbusters, because he uses all this knowledge that he's accumulated throughout his life. And then the people at the show are like, this guy's cheating, there's no way a poor guy could know all these facts. But lo and behold, he goes back on the show, he wins $1 million, he ends up with Latika, and they do a dance.
It's true. They do a pretty awesome dance, I will say, there.
Yeah, yes. That credit song, classic.
Yes.
So, I will say, the film does not quite tell the story in the same way that Tanner does.
No, I went linearly, yes.
What do you guys think of Slumdog Millionaire? Your initial thoughts, Abram. You were spoiling your thoughts before we even started recording. So you just
finger on a lip is a good indication of Abram's readiness.
Well, it's actually me checking to see if I need to shave, and the answer is yes.
Mm.
But I'll also answer the question about what I thought about the film. The best compliment I can give it, which is going to be apparent to the video viewers, is that, well, let me rewind for a second. Usually, if I need to do some sort of task in a Quest movie's on, I'll just do it anyway, because I'm watching The Greatest Showman and it's boring, so I'll fold laundry or what have you, right? But I got a new TV today, and it's over there. It's propped up on a cereal box right now, and that's true. But I was supposed to, as I watched Slumdog Millionaire, clean up all of this shit so it didn't look like this when I recorded Quest for the Bestest. But I was too enraptured in the narrative of Slumdog Millionaire to do any cleaning as I watched, which I think is a testament to how, on sort of a plot level, it is an incredibly engrossing film. I think that the fact that Slumdog Millionaire is so antithetical in its structure to how Tanner told its story really keeps the audience quite compelled as we're sort of jumping between timelines and we're telling the story, the story of a life, but we're also doing this sort of game show thing. It's all very dynamic, and the camera work and the editing is certainly dynamic also, right? So I found sort of just the aesthetic plot level Slumdog Millionaire experience to be quite great. I don't really know how much deeper into it I get, and I don't personally really like the way the movie looks. I find a lot of the editing choices and camera angles and shots to be very distracting. So I find myself pretty mixed. It's enjoyable, but ultimately I think that the style is a little bit too oppressive, and I lose some of that substance.
Yeah, its style and the editing are, I would say, certainly what's most unique about this film in our pantheon here of Best Pictures, because I've seen a lot of movies like this, but very few of them reached this level of critical acclaim, winning many awards, winning Best Picture, as obviously that's what we're talking about here. And I think that that's kind of because it's really hyper-focused in its era. Like, this was a very specific thing in a very specific time period that has since gone by the wayside, and you know what? Thank God. I'm not a huge fan of really low frame rate, slow motion, and bloom lighting and jagged camera movements and flashes and stuff. That is something of its time period that I respect. Let's use that in the loosest way possible. I respect the creative choices of Danny Boyle to do something different with the visuals and editing, but they are what make this film stand out, combined with that nonlinear storytelling. So even though I wouldn't go on the horn and say, everyone, God, Slumdog Millionaire, cinematography and how it looks and everything, let give us all the praise you can. But I think it does help this film stick out more in my mind from the pantheon of Best Picture winners, where we're usually talking about things that are told in linear order and are presented in an extravagant but rather plain editing and visual styles. But this tries none of that, and I think that that's part of its success for me. But it is really the story of Jamal's life, the way that it ties into India's culture and history, and the game show / interrogation format that makes this film so unique, and frankly, nothing really like it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this film is pretty unique in that way. I would also chalk it up to the screenplay. I think is very solid here. Screenplay by Simon Beaufoy. But yeah, obviously it stands out due to Danny Boyle's direction. But I think the screenplay is where this really excels, not only because of how it's constructed in that way, where you're starting out with seeing Jamal in the police interrogation room. He's getting strung up. He's getting electrocuted. What the hell are they doing to this guy for? And then they pop in a tape of him on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And you're trying to piece this all together, and then you're thrown back to him as a 6-year-old in the far past. And I think it's very well constructed throughout. And of course, obviously, that comes along with the romance and the relationship between Jamal and his brother, and the diverging paths that those two characters take. Absolutely. But yeah, I agree with Tucker. I think I'm probably more appreciative of Danny Boyle's directorial style in this than maybe Tucker is personally. You can respect it as you can say, but personally, you're not really a huge fan of it. And I'd say that I'm glad that this style has gone by the wayside. It's interesting to look back at this because this is
historical curiosity in many ways.
Yeah, because this was like Danny Boyle's style for a while too. I was thinking about this. Is like, yeah, you can kind of see it taper off as the years go on and on. Because like Steve Jobs, it's not really there anymore, and then you get to like 2019 with Yesterday, and that could be directed by anybody. That has no markings of a Danny Boyle film in the slightest. But refocusing on Slumdog Millionaire, yes, I think this is a good convergence of writing and direction, and of course performances from the now big star Dev Patel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty much in agreement with you guys. I found this film really entertaining, very engrossing, like Abrams said. I liked the story, I liked the plot, and I found that what this style did, which we might end up spending most of our review talking about, is gave the film a lot of energy. I really felt like this film,
Sure.
even though there are like slow moments in the plot, it never let me go. It was always just like, okay, now we move on to the next thing. Oh, like they're like, doing nothing in the police room, or we're back to, we're going back to his childhood, and oh, okay, now we're into the game show, and we're going to see some other characters at this point, and I find that like moving around and just kind of keeping us on our toes as an audience is a really useful tool to keep me engaged, but it also just, makes it so that even though I was doing my best just to like lay there and be chill on my couch as I watched this, but I was like, oh, like what's going on? What's really happening? Who,
Yeah.
playing along with the questions myself. And so I thought that it was a good time. And there are some deeper themes in this film. I think that there's really just one, it's a big class theme. That's the one that sticks out to me the most. And it isn't very, it's kind of opaque. It isn't really talked about very much, but I think it's there enough for me to back up the story and to make the story feel like it has some consequence and some stakes. Of course, the narrative and the plot, I think, has plenty of that to go around. So all in all, I enjoyed the film.
Yeah. The thing I want to focus on a little bit at first, because I think this will allow us to branch into
I will
other
say,
sections.
I like the style. I like it going like that kind of. I dug it in this movie. I think a little more would have been too much, but I think that for this film and just everything, it works.
Tucker, please resume.
As you
Don't worry, this train is still on its station.
Yeah.
The structure of this film, with that nonlinear storytelling and cutting between flashbacks, the interrogation, the game show, is done in such an interesting way that actually in some ways reminds me of the nonlinear storytelling sort of puzzle piece nature of Annie Hall, which we found really compelling, is that you never feel lost, even though you're jumping between time periods, because each time period jump is bridged by something that makes a lot of sense in terms of they're asking this question, and then boom, you're thrown back into another period in Jamal's life, and it could really be anywhere throughout there, but that's the origin of why he knows the answer to this question. And then that will flow into something with the interrogation that will be sort of talking about his thoughts on his own past. And then you'll, boom, be thrown right back into the game show. And it's this really compelling loop that flows really naturally. And because the information is so tightly stitched together of why he's answering this and why he knows this, and then how that informs his character relationships, there's a really strong interwoven bridge across the entire film, even though it is at face value really chopped up in terms of its timeline.
Yeah, and that gets back to the screenplay for me. Of course, this is adapted, and I'm not really familiar with the novel that is adapted from. But yeah,
Have you ever been with one of these movies?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Who's to say? Regardless, well, what about like No Country for Old Men? Didn't one of you guys read that or something?
Yeah,
you read that.
Yeah. Also read
Anyway.
Cuckoo's Nest. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's a screenplay thing. It is absolutely like finding the connective tissue between the question, and then we go back to the point in Jamal's life where he learns about this thing. But we're in that section of his life for 10, 15 minutes, where the origin of the answer to that question is a moment, but it is built around, or it's built within rather, a chapter of his life, an important pivotal chapter of him, his brother, and Latika escaping from the guy who's like blinding children to get them to panhandle and get more money for him, or rescuing Latika from that same guy, and Prem, Jamal's brother, straight up killing that dude. I did not expect that at all.
His brother is Salim. Prem is the guy who's interviewing him for one.
Oh, my bad. Okay, yeah, Salim. Yeah. Sorry, I did have that on my notes. My mistake. But yeah, Salim straight up killing that dude was a huge surprise to me. Because usually in a movie like this, it'd be something like, you know, the gun's out of bullets, or Salim can't pull the trigger, or something like that. You know, he's a kid at that point, and then, you know, they have to leave with their tails between their legs as Latika has continued to be trapped there. But no, they get out of there, and that really begins like Salim's descent into criminality. He eventually becomes, of course, like a mob hitman, and that's really interesting to me too. And that he gets, I wouldn't even say he gets a redemption at the end of this story, but I love the character arcs that are in here as well. It's lighter work than like the pacing and the editing and stuff like that, but it's still there, and I still enjoy it.
I think why it works so well is that in these scenes, these flashback scenes, we are not only shown the reason that Dev Patel's character knows the answer to the question in the game show, we are also, like you said, we have these, you know, 10, 15-minute blocks when we're there. And in that time, we get to understand these relationships, and we get to see the formative moments to them, and we see how these characters met and how they interacted back then and why they matter today. And that's kind of, I think, like the core of successful characterization, is just getting to live with them in these formative moments. And the screenplay really cleverly combines these two kind of developments. The development of, I can't remember Dev Patel's, what is his name again? Jamal, his development of his knowledge and the development of his, like, person.
Yes.
Yeah, I was interested with how little the narrative seems to really be concerned with sort of the cheating and the speculation there and the game show itself. I mean, obviously that's sort of the frame for the narrative, but it is far more concerned with his life than I expected. And I have to say, I think that's really where my interest lied, more than sort of the overarching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire plotline. And so I liked how much time we ended up spending in between these moments, but I also feel that we could have spent a little bit more, insofar as that I feel like his brother Salim is so interesting, there's so much there. And we get to some of it, but there's a part of me that wishes the film, almost as Tanner was saying, told itself that way in part, so we could spend more time really getting into characters instead of having like these vignettes. I don't know. I feel like the more I think about it, the more the structure it's interesting, but it feels like it's successful more in its concept to me. That's really where my enjoyment of it lies, in terms of like, maybe I just find it a little bit too cute. Maybe I'm like, I want.
Oh, Danny
more...
boy, you had fun with this.
It's a sort of thing of like, I want more of the people's life that feels genuine and interesting and sort of complicated and scary. But we learn that through Who Wants to Be a Millionaire set of questions that all directly tie back to his life. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, obviously this is film, it's drama, it's heightened, it's not real, right? But sort of his life is so hyper real and so interesting that almost for me the framing feels too artificial. And I wish that we could get a little bit deeper into some of these characters, opposed to saying, question, who came up with the gun? Guns are neat, right? Well,
there's a chapter about guns.
Well, I know that random fact because of this very deep and complicated and emotionally wrought, hyper-mature situation I was in. But that's useful insofar as that I knew the name of the gun maker, right? Maybe I'm just a shithead and I'm jaded and annoying or something, right? but part of me does feel like there's this like ingenuine layer around the really interesting character stuff, which Tanner, I do feel like is a little too light, actually.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right about that, but I think that's not necessarily why this film is as unique and as revered as it is, because I think there's absolutely the Slumdog Millionaire out there that's told in a linear way, where you go through his life and, you know, he ends up at the end and then you're like, oh, of course he knows this answer because of the thing back then. But the fact that they were able to splice it together in a way that does, as I say, feel very intertwined, I think does make certain elements stand out a little bit better, because you're not just getting Dev Patel as older Jamal for the last third of the movie. You're getting him throughout the entire thing, and when you're watching him as a child jump into poop and hold up the picture and like do all these crazy things, like have this crazy life, this very serious life of poverty and crime, it's all through this lens that you know this guy, where he ends up, and you know that he's on this screen in front of millions, if not billions, of people, and he somehow he overcame all of this and was able to become a very knowledgeable and moderately successful in his job, but like happy in a certain way life. But then you're watching him go through these trials and tribulations. So I think there's a really interesting flow there that allows us not only to get more of Dev Patel, who's clearly the star here, and all of his performance moments being spliced throughout keeps me really engaged, but it builds this character that I'm able to see two sides of at the same time, or ostensibly at the same time throughout the course of the film, instead of showing him from a very fleshed out side, but one side nonetheless.
I would say that I don't really find the ingenuineness that Abram is saying there, because as I said earlier, I think the answers to the questions are a seed that is planted in the larger characterization and storytelling of Jamal's life. Like the gun example that you brought up. He knows about guns because his brother killed somebody in front of him while they were attempting to free Latika. Or the thing about the deity, who he holding a bow in their right hand or whatever, is a random thing that he saw running away from his mother being murdered for her religion, and a bunch of other people being murdered for their religion. I think there's small things that in the larger sense of Jamal's life don't really matter, because what's interesting to me also is that he views Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that's not the end goal for him. The end goal is winning $1 million or whatever, or 16 million
and being
rupees,
on the TV. Yeah.
And being on the TV to get Latika so they can go to the train station and start a new life together. That's the end goal. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is just like a step in, just like the crucial step in that plan. I think that's also brought across in the way that he doesn't know all the answers to the questions. Like, he gets the one about the Indian motto.
Yeah,
and the cricket thing. Did he get that one wrong? Yeah, right.
He didn't know that one.
He didn't know that one.
Deduction
right.
and the thing in the bathroom and all that.
Yeah, but I feel like there are of course stakes put on him getting these questions right, but his personal stake isn't like, oh man, I really hope I know this thing for my own personal edification. It's, I need to get this money so I can start a new life with the woman that I love. And I think that's what's really interesting and important to me for the whole quiz show aspect of this film.
Yeah, I mean, let me put it this way, Tanner. By the way, Quiz Show, great movie. If anybody hasn't seen Quiz Show, you should watch that. That's a great movie. But
yeah,
when I say sort of like the artificiality of this sort of frame narrative, I think about sort of the end of the film, right? Because you're totally right. It is about getting Latika back. That's the plot ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
That's his need as a character. He needs her back. But so he wins 20 million rupees, and they're like, fine, you can go. You know what I mean? At a certain point, we cut from winning to sitting being sad at the train station, and we see her at the train station again. Mm-hmm. And it is very romantic, right? It's not real. It's a movie. It's a plot.
What?
They reconnect for the sort of sake of dramatic tension, and I think it's effective when they meet in the place that they almost met before, but then she was kidnapped away again, right? I think that's cool. But what happened to him being maybe a cheat and beating this guy to the show and then being interrogated by the police, and now he's just kind of out? Mm-hmm. I suppose what I'm saying is that ultimately, you're right, Tanner, insofar as that the questions are just there to be like a seed to grow a sort of vignette and chapter of his life out of. Mm-hmm. But I feel like those seeds are there only to do that, in the sense of where does the game show go? And I get that his goal is not to win.
Yeah.
But what happened to the narrative of the police? What happened to his rivalry with the other host? These are some of the things that to me brought a lot of added tension onto his personal need and his personal arc. But then they just kind of disappear. And I think what I was sort of alluding to at the beginning is that the style of the structure, I'm talking about style just not only in terms of editing and visual style, but writing style. It's very stylish, but I feel like the more distance I get, the more I start to wonder, well, what happened to those characters? What's sort of the function of all of this? And I feel like the end doesn't really leave me with a sense that we've overcome anything in the game show, really.
Yeah. What Abram really needs is a few lines of text afterwards, like Jamal got interrogated again,
Yeah.
and they found out that he wasn't cheating, and
Well,
then he was let go.
that's the conclusion that the movie comes. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
conclusion that you're supposed to draw, is that throughout the portions that you see of him as a child are him explaining to famed Indian actor Irfan Khan and his fat sidekick. That's like, here's how I knew this. I'm not cheating. Here's a story from my life about how I knew this. And that's him explaining to the police, and they're like, well, shit, he didn't cheat. That's how he explained to us how he didn't cheat, and he's free to go back to the show. And the other host, Prem, is an interesting thing to me. But I want to hear more from Tucker and Timo before maybe we get into. I give my thoughts on that. Maybe
I agree with you, Tanner. I mean, once we are in the first, as soon as the torture part of his capture is done, and he's actually explaining stuff to me, it's like super. I was like, okay, like I can tell it's obvious in like this is where this movie's going, but I'm not super upset because it's gonna show me new and different things each time we do this. But also like, he's gonna get away because he's just gonna explain, and so that the police, that whole narrative serves more as like a vehicle to drive us into those flashback scenes and to let us know about what Jamal's character is. And I think that there's this understanding that the policeman's gotta ask him about all of the questions, but like as soon as a couple of questions are asked, it's like pretty obvious that he's not cheating. And the accusation, I think, draws into this theme of that is what the title is, that the really poor person is on the verge of getting, the luckiest break of his life, of most poor people's life, and to call that into question and to, have his knowledge be questioned and to have the game be sort of rigged against him in a way with Prem's actions in the bathroom, like helps illustrate this theme of, I think, kind of a grotesque show that exploits these nasty, horrible life stories. Even though the TV show doesn't broadcast them, we see how the show is kind of exploiting Jamal for his knowledge to win, in which everyone, like literally, like I think the movie tries to make a big point that for his second appearance, everybody tunes into it.
Yeah.
Like everyone in India is watching because it's just unbelievable. And to have this like glitzy, glamorous set and the show about winning money, and then every other time the film is, as soon as we are outside the set and the TV studio, we're in the slums basically, and that's where the characters live, and that's where their homes are, and that's where everything that matters is to them. And I think that it's in that contrast that the most heavy lifting thematically that this film has comes out. And I think I appreciate what the film has to say about game shows like this and their impact on people. I don't think it's a whole lot, but I'm glad it's in there at least a little bit.
Yeah, I here's the thing. I think I agree with Abram, but I think that it's not something that impacts my viewing experience. More of my like retroactive quest for the bestest, trying to eke every storyline to its possible conclusion. That it only partially impacts my thoughts about this film, because he's right in that the interrogation and the impact on other people and the cheating and the game show and Prem and all of this is surface level. In terms of, you don't learn anything about this cop, you don't really learn anything about Prem, you don't really learn anything about maybe like the process that it took to get him on this show, or like obviously the film basically just ends as soon as he wins. So there's basically no thematic weight given to like digging into that element of the film, which is a pretty substantial element of the film. It is the framing of this story. It is where we are seeing Dev Patel give some of his best moments when talking with Prem, but it is like third most important on the ladder of like, all right, where are we putting the meat of this film. We're really digging into the characters and the scenes, and we're putting the screen time behind it. It's Jamal, it's the flashbacks, and then it's the game show and related modern elements. And so I think that it's unfortunate that even it's third on the ladder. It's still pretty high up in terms of importance. It's unfortunate that wasn't given the reverence and depth that places 1 and 2 were given. But it's also like I kind of feel a necessary trade-off. Maybe not completely necessary. This isn't like a super long movie. We can go, an hour, 2 hour 20 Slumdog Millionaire, and maybe we'd get a slightly more complete story. But it could be longer. It could be shorter. Who's gonna say? But I do think that Abrams' criticism is absolutely valid, because these things that he's wanting are set up, but they're left to fairy dust at the end, and we get a fun Bollywood dance montage.
I don't know. I just don't agree, because like you say it there. The quiz show is a framing device, but like I said, Jamal isn't concerned with winning the show for the sake of winning the show. And he views like this interrogation about cheating as like just a meaningless distraction from getting the 16 million rupees and his life with Latika.
20, by the way. 20.
Okay, sorry, yeah, 20. Oh yeah, the final is 20. He ends on 16 on his first round, I think, or something like that. Anyway, it's just the framing device for me. And Tucker, you lay out the top 3. Tucker's dying over here.
He's choking on some water right now.
Yeah, drink more. That'll help.
Yeah. You laid out like the top 3 things that this film is concerned with, and I agree. And I don't think that sent the film not going into like, well, what about the cheating accusations, and what about the interrogation? That's not what the film is about. And so I don't really find a lot of use in like sort of saying, well, I wish it doesn't go into this, and I think that's to its detriment. I don't think it ever set out to be about that. It never set out to be quiz show to reference what Abrams said earlier. It's set out to be a film about Jamal and the struggle that his life was, and the opportunity that he was given to win these 20 million rupees and start a new life.
Now I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna move on, because I think it's gonna get really cyclical after I say this.
Okay.
And I think we should probably have something else. But
yeah,
Tanner, you're right for the character of Jamal, but I'm not Jamal. I wish I was Dev Patel, but I'm not.
Okay.
Don't we all? I'm an audience member, right? And so, what does the film begin on? Really cool. Well, it doesn't immediately begin on this, but a really cool shot of him getting waterboarded. Waterboarding, not cool. Trying to drown people in a bucket, not cool. I don't condone it.
Not cool. Yeah.
But it is a frame narrative, but the frame is what invests us as an audience. And what we are immediately confronted with is a situation wherein the narrative is about proving his innocence. That's how the film frames itself. And at a certain point, the sort of flashback nature fades as we reach concurrent time. And so the frame becomes less of sort of a way to incite the story of Jamal, and more of a sort of overarching recurrent narrative that is hooking us as the audience along. This was stringing us along. The moment of the film where I felt the most tense and the most engaged was when we're phoning Latika, and she's not picking up the goddamn phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I've seen a movie before, so I know she's gonna pick up.
You have.
I know she's gonna pick up the phone, but I actually I got off that fucking bed covered in amiibo and various things, and stood on the other side of the room and ate these peppermint kisses, because I couldn't be close enough to my laptop because it was too tense. I had to be somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
This room is small, so there's only I can only go so far, right? But I bring this up to say that I think a lot of what makes the film feel high stakes and feel compelling to the audience is the cheating, is the framing, is the show, is the victory on the show. The show is central to theme. The show is central to the character need. I think it is more important than you're letting on. Even if it is not central to the main character, the film is about more than the main character. And to that point, to what you were saying, Timo, about theme, I think it's a little bit bigger than that. And the
if
line
you start with T, you're 33% of the way there, Danny.
Nah.
So.
What I think that the sort of the theme of the film gets a little bit bigger, because there's that line when we meet back up with Salim is the brother's name, right?
Yeah, Sunny.
We meet back up with him, and he's like the second in command to the mafioso or guy or whatever. And they're standing in. They're
Abrams' eyes light up.
I'm like,
Crime.
crime.
Yes.
Crime.
Oh, there it is.
I love crime.
Abram loves crime. Book 'em, boys. We got him.
Abram pulled out his Blu-ray copies of Uncut Gems and Goodfellas.
Oh, that's for the audio listener. Good
Right.
job. Yeah.
often forget
Salim
about
says
them.
something really interesting. They're standing on this building and they look out over Bombay, and he says, "Those used to be our slums. Now they're just business."
Mm-hmm.
And I think this connects to why going a little bit deeper into the show is important. And I think it connects to why I think the themes of the film are a little bit broader, but also sharpened than what you were saying, Timo. I think the theme is about exploitation, ultimately, of the lower class. Just as Salim says that the slums have become business, a resource to exploit, that is what our main character is on this show, as you were saying. So I do think that there is a reason to interrogate that part, I guess, interrogate the interrogation further, because I think it gets to the heart of what the film is trying to say beyond just being a really interesting character study.
Yeah. Well, there are two things I want to talk about there. I want to talk about
Wait,
Prem
I
because
just want to throw in. I like your reading.
Go ahead, Timo.
Great reading, Abram. I think that is actually a really good thematic
Yeah.
understanding.
A+,
Continue, Tim.
buddy.
A+.
Well, I'm not saying I never said. You can wind the tape back. I never said that the quiz show aspect wasn't important. I said that the film is more concerned with other things,
Sure.
with Jamal's character in the background and things of that nature. Because I do really love Prem as this sort of supplementary character in this story, especially the key scene, of course, when they're taking a commercial break for the show. Jamal goes into the bathroom, Prem goes into the bathroom, and he's like, "Hey, listen, man, I grew up in the same circumstances that you, and now look at me. I'm a big shot TV host, and I know it's gonna be tough for you out there. Here's an answer. Boop. Let me write a little B on the mirror here. You're welcome." And then, but Jamal knows. He's like, this is too good to be true. And he's right, because Prem is like very, very guarded about his position as being like, I'm the guy who made it out of the slums. I'm the big shot who's on this show right now, and I'm not going to have the spotlight stolen from me. And I think that's all implicit in that scene. It is, of course, given to the audience a little bit more through some dialogue choices in there. Especially like when Jamal gets arrested and he's like, he's cheating. It's how those poor people do it from the slums. I should know. I'm from there. This is my show. I decide who wins, essentially. And I love that as like this thing of this concept socioeconomically of like closing the door behind you. I made it out, and now I'm not going to let anybody else get the same benefits that I had.
I got mine. Screw you.
Exactly. So I like that element of Prem as the host of the show, and he also knows, to your point about you guys talking about exploitation. He's like, people love to see the underdog, and that's why he kind of allows this thing to happen after Jamal figures out his lie and stuff like that. But I think there's another thematic thing. If you can't believe it, I think this film has multiple themes. Believe it or not. And
First request.
Yes, yeah. Abram, you say the film starts with Jamal getting waterboarded, and you're partially correct, because before that it has the multiple choice question, and the answer is, of course, it is written. I think this film is about fate and the subversion of fate in a spiritual sense, in a larger spiritual sense, but cosmic sense. Thank you. But also about that socioeconomic sense, about like Jamal is turning all odds, winning this show in this way. He is fighting against the fate that he was given when he was born into this station in life, when his mother was killed, when he was exploited as a youth to be a panhandler, when he was giving fake tours at the Taj Mahal, which is a sequence that I love. He flipped all these odds because he believed in himself and he had a goal that he was fighting towards. I think that fate is also an important element of this film, and the strength of fate, but also the subversion of fate.
Yeah, the strength, the by being born in one city or in one neighborhood versus another, leads your fates to be very different. And perhaps
Mhm.
sometimes you can get out of it and sometimes you can't. I think I've been thinking about Salim's character because I find that he is like the weakest character and his resolution feels like the least. I don't know, like we're not clued into it coming. It feels like he just kind of shifts at one point. But I think where he is interesting and is well done is the idea of an alternate escape. Both the brothers are like escape from poverty in
Mhm.
different ways. Salim goes and escapes from poverty arguably first by becoming a crime henchman and being in the
Mhm.
mob and killing people, and then as violence often as with happens with violence, those who commit violent deeds end up usually dying too. So at
Mhm.
least in the movies, so he escapes poverty through criminality, violence, and then death, whereas Jamal escapes poverty through luck and the hardship of his life, really, and through this circumstance lining up in basically just the right way for him. And I find that dynamic of these two, especially as brothers, these two characters, is pretty interesting. And I like to see how it develops towards the end. And then at the end, I guess I'm satisfied. It's badass when he's lying in the tub with all the money on him. Like that's just badass. But like,
That's how
is
I
it
want to go out.
is it like satisfying?
Don't worry, you
It's
will.
kind of. It's kind of.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, those kind of moments I think are why this film sticks out so much in my mind. And even at one point, I mean, I do this really interesting thing where on
I doubt it.
I know it's hard to believe, but I do this one really interesting thing
Okay.
is I will take my top 25 favorite movies of all time, and if I update it, I will keep the old version of that top 25 list, and I will make a new version of it on my letterbox list. And so you
Mhm.
can go back to November 2017, I think, is my earliest one. And in one of those first few lists, I had Slumdog Millionaire as one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, that's not the case anymore. It didn't stick with me as much after that first viewing. After a couple months, I saw other things. I saw 12 Angry Men. I saw Rear Window. Other things
Mhm.
were kicked out of there. But the reason that it works so well for me is that unlike a lot of Best Picture winners that are really in tune with the realism and this based on a true story, and we're trying to tell a story about the world as it could have possibly happened with some embellishments to make it a stronger filmic narrative. But Slumdog Millionaire feels really like a movie's movie. This is a movie about
a
editing, about style, about
Sure, yeah.
about flashiness and the congruence of the editing and the music. And not only that, but these crazy moments. Like a guy being covered in money and laying in a tub and shooting someone, and this crazy over the top moment that's
Or the
intercut
kid
with like
coming out
last
of
seconds.
the latrine covered in
Yeah,
poop and
exactly.
getting an autograph from the most famous man in India. Like that's
100%. And those are the moments that stick with me the most. Or as Abram was saying, like she's across the town, she's got to climb over the cars to get to the phone that's ringing.
Yeah.
As she like looks at the TV and realizes the phone, she ain't cut off to the phone. The phone is ringing. And I think, people are watching this. It is those crazy over the top moments that this film treats with like equal parts. Like this is serious and this is ridiculous. That makes this film feel so unique as a Best Picture winner. And these are film moments. These are movie moments. These are ridiculous, but they do contribute a lot to the memorability of this film, as opposed to like single sequences from other films. But they're so prevalent throughout here that I'm like, oh yeah, that one and that one and that one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love letter to cinema.
In many ways, I suppose it is. But yeah, Tucker, thank you for bringing that up, because we mentioned it at the beginning, but this is Danny Boyle's sticky little fingerprints are all over this movie, and in the lighting, in the camera work, in the editing.
What was he eating beforehand?
Well, I think he had his hands in whatever was under that latrine, Tucker.
Jesus Christ.
But no, yeah, as I mentioned, I do like, and I think that the directorial style here does make it quite unique. And maybe, just maybe, Tucker, you're talking about how heightened, how zany some of these sequences feel. We've dipped our toe into Indian cinema here and there. And that is certainly a thing that is prevalent in the Indian films that we have seen. So,
Yeah.
an Indian co-director on this, Loveleen, I'm forgetting the name here, Loveleen something, right?
I said it for you. It's
Yes.
Loveleen Tandon.
Yes, Loveleen Tandon is the Indian co-director for this film, and I think maybe her fingerprints are on this just as much. But no,
IMDb has her double listed as co-director and casting director.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay, interesting.
yeah, up on the top header section as co-director, down in the crew as casting director. So
Maybe co is short for cast.
co-asting.
Maybe, mayhaps. But yeah, like the sequence that it really started to click for me was when it is Jamal and Salim, they're little kids and they're running away from the police officer towards the beginning of the film, and we are dodging in between these narrow little streets in India, and the camera's following them like this, and we're whipping it as they're jumping over rooftops and stuff like that, and then we'll go to like a lower frame rate and stuff like that, and it's doused in yellow light and everything, and it's got the Indian filter on it, as Abram said at the beginning of this. But yeah, I think it's got that Danny Boyle directorial style to it that I'm like, this is a Danny Boyle film, and I will remember it as such.
I find the just sheer amount of camera movement in this film not to be disorienting, but to be like to yank me in and I'm like locked in and watching, because while the camera moves around a lot, I don't find it difficult to tell what's happening. I
Yeah.
think this happens in fight choreography a lot when they shoot a fight scene and they just cut all over the place and you get going. This movie cuts all over the place, but it still allows us to understand the movement of the shot, of the movement of the characters, to feel what is happening in this space. And the spaces themselves feel they don't feel, they look, and the characters run around in them quite extensively. So they're very real spaces despite being so broken up in the edit. I think that the actual sets and the cinematography allow that editing to just be able to do whatever it wants, because we can still understand it.
Yeah, I like your word from earlier, Timo. You said energy. The film has a lot of energy, and I think you're absolutely right. And it's funny. I've had to start doing some more actual film production as a film student. I can't just be lazy and like read theory and like sit on my ass all the time.
See, look,
Yes.
I got the theory books right here. There's plenty of
There you go,
theory
yeah.
in
all
this.
the important ones. Throw those out the window, though. We're making films,
Yes.
No more theorizing here on BL.
Yeah.
And I find myself having to start to think about like, what do I like? If I'm editing something, what do I want it to look like? What's sort of the pace of that? And I've come to realize that I really like when we cut as little as humanly possible.
Sure.
I don't want to cut. I want the camera to glide. I want
That's why you love 1917.
right.
Yeah.
A film that
Well,
I
Aaron,
lo-
that's just because you're editing your movies right now. Once you get a separate editor, you can cut as much as you want, and,
And you
they
can
have to deal
and
with
you
it.
can just be like, you make it change the frame a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because here's the thing, right? I think that at a certain point, at least for me as a viewer and somebody who looks at film editing now, I guess, because I have to,
Yeah.
like, I don't want a lot of obstruction. And sometimes to me, editing feels like obstruction. We just saw Black Adam. The entire film is about obstruction. and I think that what's effective, to your point, Timo, is that it doesn't feel obstructive. Because I think that the entire film is created around the idea that what if everything is always off kilter but on purpose?
Yeah.
I think about Jason Bourne, because at some point, like, fucking Jason Bourne is making Slumdog Millionaire, right?
Yeah. Paul Greengrass. It was around the same era, like 2006,
Right.
2007. Yeah.
Yeah, but Paul Greengrass makes a movie that just looks like a regular old movie. And then Jason Bourne starts fighting a guy with a book and a pencil, is getting stuck, shaking someone's hand, and the camera's doing all this all of a sudden, right?
Uh-huh.
But Slumdog Millionaire is like rarely at rest, and I think that helps the film to never feel too jarring, because I'm always in the mode of something must be happening. Like, I think about the really interesting sort of dissolves and transitions. Like we see at one point this slow pan of our main characters as kids pans to Dev Patel's face, and sort of the memory fades into the background, and it's just sort of medium close of him sitting and being interrogated, right? And I think the fact that even what could be a simple contemplative shot is actually this sort of complicated camera movement into this editing movement makes it so when we are running and the camera is cutting and things are always happening, I'm already in that mode, because it's a movie that's always about its energy. And I find that to be quite interesting, even as somebody that typically wants things to be a little bit calmer.
I think there's a really interesting example of what you're saying is that a moment where it feels calmer is during the game show, but we see the game show like I guess through the tapes of it, right? We're shown in the
Mhm.
beginning of the film that we are watching these tapes in the police interrogate at the police station. Um and because it's filmed like we're watching the filmed version of the game show, not like the cinematographer's filming of the game show. You get what I'm saying? We get
I know
Yeah.
what
these
you mean.
sweeping like TV game show camera
Yeah, yeah,
moves
yeah.
and that are not like but they're a big camera move. The camera moves like 20, 40 feet and yet it's
Yeah.
like the smoothest thing ever and it's a very big
Yeah.
contrast and yet it still is that same the camera's moving in most shots. We're getting some kind of energy communicated through the blocking, through the editing and through the cinematography that like makes it so that I'm just pulled forward in this film. I'm just constantly like, there's no, like you said, there's no resting and there's no moments where I'm having downtime and being bored and wanting to A, look at my phone or B, clean my room. So, you know.
Yeah.
And I
And none
gotta
of us
get
did any of those things. Man.
no, I gotta give it up to Danny Boyle for that because I was just again I was comparing this to the rest of his work that I had seen. I've seen Sunshine. I've seen 28 Days Later, which I'm
I
like
didn't even
eh,
realize
or
I'd
bad
seen
on.
another Danny Boyle movie, but I saw it yesterday. I think I watched it on an
Yeah, so
airplane.
he did yesterday. But I think the one that's most close to this is also closest in release date. I think it's 127 hours, which is a very different film that framing wise than this is because of course it's based on the true story of a guy who got his arm pinned under a giant boulder in the desert and couldn't move. But Danny Boyle still finds a way to keep that energy, that tension there, with a guy who cannot move from where he is for like 2 weeks or whatever.
No.
Um,
127 hours.
yeah,
5
you know what?
days?
That's less
No, I
than a
didn't-
week. There's
You know what? Don't worry about it.
168
Hey,
hours
listen,
in a
hey,
week,
listen,
Tanner.
you know what, guys? Don't worry about it. I said the name of I said the title of the movie. Then I'm like, I don't know, just make up a time frame because I don't remember. But obviously,
got
it's
2
the
weeks.
title of the movie. It's how long he was there. Regardless,
If only
I
there
think
were
that
some way
yeah,
of us
God.
knowing
yeah.
an estimated amount of time that he might have been there.
Regardless, I think that it is emblematic of Danny Boyle's directorial style and ability to have that energy in any kind of film that he makes.
Yeah.
That he seems to have now abandoned to make Yesterday or whatever.
I like that
Man,
movie.
he
Yeah,
could
like,
make
Yesterday's a good
movies
movie,
like
but it's
this.
nothing like his previous work.
I feel like he could. This style is if the slow mo like low frame rate slow mo is a definite marker of the time. But I think the
Yeah.
like frenetic pacing is something that can be taken advantage of by filmmakers. It can be exploited to an advantage when you combine it with the right story that can be told with that method. I feel like this is it's an interesting and it's a rather unique way to view a film or to show a story. And it definitely makes this movie stand out. I really don't see how it could be shot in another way and be half as good. Like I feel
Yeah.
like we would have just lost so much attachment
Yeah.
to the film if it wasn't constantly, you know, probing flashing lights in our eyes all the time. But it works, I think.
Well, the Academy also seemed to agree, Timo, because this won Best Director for Danny Boyle. It won Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing. Also won, obviously, Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, as I mentioned earlier. It won Best Original Score. It won Best Original Song for Jai Ho at the very end. It
course it
won
did.
Best Sound Mixing, and it was nominated for, but did not win, another original song and sound editing.
Well,
That's a crazy list of wins right there.
It got eight
Eight.
wins.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
A lot of big ones too.
I think it's very well deserved on many of them. I'll speak to the soundtrack because I actually really dug
Yeah,
the music for this, even though it feels like it's of the time, right? It feels like I'm listening to a 2008 movie soundtrack, and yet
You are.
I am. It's changing stuff up, and it makes it different, and it doesn't. Even though I'm like I know what these cliches in I know what the cliches of this time are. I've heard far more cliched scores. I think it was doing interesting stuff with it, and I found myself grooving to the soundtrack. And the movie let it
Good.
it let it come out and sit on
Yeah.
top of the mix for times, which is like, it's a thing I gotta learn, is to just be like, when I'm doing my own editing, speaking of us making our own stuff, you gotta be able to let the music just carry stuff. Music has power, man.
I wanna point out one very particular moment of editing and music harmonizing.
All right.
It's this moment. What's this song that sort of becomes a motif about doing something? The poppy one, the pop song.
The pop
Doesn't
song in
matter.
this one?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Paper Planes by MIA.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's a point as that song is unfolding where we see it's either Salim, I think it's Salim counting like
Yes.
coins out, and it's to the sound of a gun cocking
Yeah.
in the song.
Yeah.
And that little harmony of the sort of visual tracking alongside the music was really masterfully done. And there are little moments like that, I think, that really stick out stylistically to make the film, I think, feel more cohesive than just, yeah, brother, it's from, as Timo says, the naughties, so it's gonna have low frame rate slow-mo, which I think looks awful. But I've always felt that looked awful. That's the one part of the style that doesn't feel harmonious at all.
Sure.
But
It's relatively infrequent though, which
but it makes it more annoying when it does happen.
No.
I think
Thank
one
Danny
day,
Boyle.
I think one day I will shoot an entire movie like that.
No.
Oh.
I'll go watch it on 3 times speed.
Oh, he got you. He got you
With
there.
the Pokemon frame rate.
Owned.
But no, Abram, thank you for bringing that up. I love the Paper
welcome.
Planes needle drop.
Yeah.
Not the Pokemon thing. The Paper Planes by MIA. I that was a big surprise for me. I was like, holy, this is a famous song. I love this song. And it of course has some thematic resonance as well, because it has the sound of a cash register intercut with like gunshots and stuff like that, sort of showing how people in poverty often have to turn to crime to make ends meet and things like that, which is this film really shows. I mentioned it quickly before, but God, I love all this stuff of him just pulling pranks on stupid English and American tourists.
Yeah.
I think that's so good.
Really
Just
fun.
making stuff about the Taj Mahal, or when he leads the couple off, and a bunch of other kids like come and steal the tires and everything off their rental car.
They go NASCAR pit stop mode.
Oh yeah, he was saying like NASCAR, let's go. Yeah.
The funniest joke, though, is when he's giving the first fake tour of the Taj Mahal, and he's explaining how that woman died, and the tourist is like, well, I thought she died in childbirth. They're like, yes, there's a car crash on the way to the hospital.
Yeah.
It's just really clever. And I think it feeds back into the style of the film, insofar as the guys are just being grifters, and they're improv. And that sort of energy, I think, feeds into how everything looks. So I agree, Tanner, that sequence in the Taj Mahal is awesome. They're shaking out the Polaroids, and they're stealing the shoes, and they're reselling the shoes, and they're counting out wads of money, and then they're drinking down by the bank or whatever. It's really, really well done.
Yeah. Anything else from anybody?
Well, I mean, we really haven't
Done.
praised Dev Patel very much in this review. I will say
sure.
he does a damn good job. As our main dude. I like him.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
A star-making performance. He, of course, off the back of this, did the Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, oh yeah. But no, yeah, I think he's really great. Of course, it seems so strange to be returning to his first feature film role, a Best Picture winner now that he's a sizable star in Hollywood. But no, yeah, he is very good. In those moments, because he does the same thing. Like when he shows up, trying to get into Latika's house, or the mafioso guy's house. And he's like, we ordered, he's like, I'm a cook, I'm the new cook. And he's like, we didn't order a cook, we ordered the dishwasher. And he's like, I am your dishwasher. Yeah.
Lots of great moments there.
Good stuff.
And he's given a really nice range to play.
Yeah,
Because not
yeah.
only do we see him locked in either interrogation or game show mode, in which he's also firing off small barbs at Prem, because Prem's sort of like trying to take advantage of his financial economic situation and like make fun of him a little bit. We don't only get that, but we get a good chunk of the movie where the flashbacks are still old enough Jamal to be played by Dev Patel. And so we see him go through poverty and finding a job and and getting beat up and getting tortured and being on a game show and running for his life and all these
falling
crazy
in
things.
love and yeah.
Yeah, and that really gives Dev Patel a breadth of emotion to work with that not many films are able to have, because they don't cover such a wide variety of scenarios to place a guy into. Like this guy gets in a lot of scenarios
He does.
in this
He even
movie, and
dances.
we just see all of them. And he dances. He's a great
next
dancer.
time someone brings me a screenplay to evaluate, I will use the metric: how many scenarios does the guy get into? And the bigger the
scenarios,
number,
higher
the
score.
better.
Exactly.
Now you might as well call this a meeting of the Silly Goose Convention, because we've made a major oversight here in our conversation. We
What's
have
that?
not talked about the romance or Latika in anything more than a circumspect fashion.
Sure.
And,
Okay.
And Tanner, if it's so important to Jamal's character, if it's at the center of the movie, we must talk more about it. I think.
Okay, fine. Well, I did want to. I wanted to shout out before, because we have the opportunity to do so here. My favorite line reading in this film from Dev Patel, which is when he's explaining the moment in which his mother was killed when he was young, and he says, "I wake up every morning, wish I didn't know the answer. If it wasn't for Rama and Allah, I would still have a mother." Love that line. Fucking great line.
Great.
Also, another great way that this movie sort of like ties in each of these stories to his personal life, but not only that, to like India's religious cultural history, and like, you know, we're dumb Americans. We're not taught about India's history. We've maybe picked up bits here and there, but from what I do
I've
know,
seen Gandhi.
We watched Gandhi.
please
Please,
go
I've
watch
seen-
our review.
Yeah.
But I like
I've
that moment,
seen-
how it like ties everything together in a really interesting way. And that great line.
I've seen Gandhi, a British film about how about British oppression in India. I've seen it. And I think I got a pretty fair reading of what was going on there.
I've seen Slumdog Millionaire, a British film about.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, but yes, the romance between Jamal and Latika obviously starts out when they are sort of panhandling for money. Obviously, there's that great shot of like Latika being forced to stand out in the rain by
Beautiful.
and Jamal's brother falls asleep. He's like, "Oh, come on, get in here." You know, it starts off as this cute little thing between these kids, and then she obviously gets she gets like does Jamal's brother like knock her off of the train? Am I remembering that correctly? Or does she
No.
just let her grip just slip?
Of course he lets go. When
Yeah,
they're
he
trying
lets
to
go,
escape,
yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah, okay. Yes. Well, and obviously, you know, we don't see her. He doesn't see her for years and years and years then. But he is still like doggedly pursuing, like, I have to get back to her. I am in love with her. I need to see her again. And that comes around again. You know, they're putting the feelers out on the street. Where's Latika? Where's Latika? And then they find her. She's like she's in this big empty room with this creepy dude who's like watching her dance. The insinuation is there, of course, of what's going on there. And they come in, they kill the guy, and then there's like the really messed up sequence when Jamal's brother is like, "I'm gonna have sex with your girlfriend because fuck you, I guess." I'm just like I'm summarizing the romance because I don't know. I want one of you guys to jump in here and give me your thoughts. I guess.
you were talking so quick and so fast. We didn't really.
I'm sorry. I just kept going.
I found the romance to be endearing. I found it to be Hollywood-esque in that we save our. Our first meeting is not very romantic as children. They're just kind of friends, and we could see it develop into a romance later. I kinda didn't. Maybe says something about me, but I didn't exactly see the romance happening until the film was like, oh, it's happening. It didn't like clue me into it earlier. But I did, you know, I was cheering for him at the end. That train when they finally get back, when they get together at the train station and they have the kiss that ends the movie. I felt pretty gratified then. But I will say that because Latika is just yet another character in this slate of characters that are in the side stories or in these flashback side stories, we don't develop her very much, and the relationship between the two of them isn't developed much beyond a like Jamal is searching, and and she's found, she's in a bad situation, and she's got to be rescued essentially from that. And so it's just not a very deep romance, in my opinion.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. I think that its simplicity is another part of that feeling like a movie's movie kind of movie. Is that like the heightening of the tension and the character motivation that we get from Jamal because she's missing for so much of the movie and so much of his life. I think it's worth the trade-off. Because I agree with you. I think it's cute, and like from a very simple story perspective, him being really committed is good. It's a fine simple string to pull across the course of the movie. But it's simple, and I don't really feel their romance other than like I'm told that he's really committed to finding her. But that trade-off of feeling the weight of his history on him because he can't find the person that he loves, and the way that like poverty and the situations that were put into his children and the sexual power dynamics that Latika is put into multiple times across her life, these themes and concepts and the way they impact Jamal are strong enough for me to let it slide, I guess, that I don't find the romance like amazingly well done.
Mm-hmm. No, we're not talking about like a fleshed out relationship like the before trilogy here. Latika is a damsel in distress for 99% of this movie, and she is the person that Jamal needs to rescue from the lifestyle that she's been forced into by these circumstances, so they can have their life together because they care for each other. It's not. We mostly see it from Jamal's perspective, of course, because he's the main character. But they do care for each other, and they are. They love each other, and they want to have a good life where they can live together, and all these sweet and gushy things, of course. And I think that's what makes the constant tearing apart of these two characters so compelling. You're like, I want to see them get together because it's just good when two characters who love each other get together. You know what I mean?
I have just realized yet another thing to my theme point. So Jamal and Salim have their ways of escaping poverty. Well, so does Latika, and hers is through sex and her body, basically. And the film does comment on the lack of availability of any other ways for women to get out of the poverty cycle. Just wanted to toss that in there. I think that is maybe, well, now that I think about it, a satisfying and a nice note that the film at least is able to comment on using the romance.
Aben?
Yeah, I think it's just underwritten. I think that Tanner sort of just giving the beat by beat how the narrative unfolds to me is useful insofar as the romance is useful because the plot beats are interesting. Like, it's plot level cool because it's like, oh, we gotta go rescue her. But you're right, she's a damsel. We know nothing about her. She's a object for these sort of male characters around her. And Timo, I think you're right in the sense that it speaks to a theme or a sort of societal injustice being commented on, but I don't think that makes for a satisfying interpersonal relationship when we don't see what Latika, what others are exploiting away from Latika. Like everybody just sees her as just an object, but we never see anything other than that either. Right. And I kind of want these scenes where we learn more about her and she becomes a person, opposed to like a football that's thrown around. And I think that's really disappointing because
Oliver.
Just like Oliver. Great pull there, Tucker.
Sure.
But Abram, isn't it compelling to see them dance at the end? Isn't that compelling? When they do the dance, and then when they get the two little kid actors, and they're just flailing their arms about doing the little kid dance. That's cute,
like
right?
That. It is.
Yeah,
cute.
That's fun.
All I know, Tanner, is that Jamal's got that Slumdog in him.
There we go. God.
And with that, I think we should give this a score.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it to it.
Let me give you one other piece of information as I pull up this because I forgot to pull up my sheet.
Okay.
Tanner, can I give you a score this week? 0 to 10, no trivia.
Oh yeah, well I was looking through some trivia. It's a little light, quite honestly. You want me to tell you what the poop was made of?
Yeah, I do.
Peanut
Hey,
butter
yo,
and
what the
chocolate.
poop made of?
Hey, yo.
There's peanut butter and chocolate under there. So
They're great when separate, but when they combine, they really
when
make
they
the morning time
combine,
epic.
boy, let me tell you.
I mean, I like peanut butter and chocolate together. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Danny Boyle was like he really wasn't interested in doing like a movie about who wants to be a millionaire, but then he like read the novel and he's like, oh, this is about more than just a quiz show. I'll do the movie, sure, yeah.
I'll give you a piece of Abram Buner trivia.
What's that?
Okay.
Until about half of this review, I thought that Danny Boyle and Danny McBride were the same person, and I thought that Danny McBride directed this movie.
No, he was making Pineapple Express around this time.
Well, just hit that
Why
enter
didn't
button.
that one win Best Picture?
Yeah, what the hell?
I
All
think
right.
exactly this year. I'm pretty sure that came out 2008. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
2,
1.
1.
We're doing a really slow countdown. Oh, Timo.
Oh, high five, Tanner.
Nice.
You didn't high five me back.
Yes,
Tanner.
wait.
I can't see
tie.
you. I give me a high five here, Timo. Here we go. Ready?
Yeah, go. There we go. Okay, Tanner and I gave it the same score. The average
Tucker,
score
give
for
me a high
Slumdog
five.
Millionaire is a 7.9. The point breakdown goes as follows. Tucker gave it an 8.8.
Nice.
Tanner and I gave it a 7.7. And Abram gave it a 7.4. So there you go, 7.9.
Mm.
I'm making an interesting face here. Kind of more like a
Okay.
what?
Oh
Because
god, we got a three-way tie.
We've got
here.
a
That's
tie
part
to
of the show.
decide here. Now is where it gets interesting. Are two movies that we're gonna have to look at. First, does it go? It goes against the French Connection, and if it goes past that, it goes against Mutiny on the Bounty. So what do we have to say? Slumdog Millionaire versus the French Connection.
This.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Slumdog.
Brumdog is going French Connection.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Slumdog on this one because I think it's more fun, and
Yeah,
I'm
they have
But the
similar camera vibes. You know.
Give me another scene from the French Connection, Abram. I can give you multiple scenes from Slumdog Millionaire.
I watched Slumdog Millionaire 45 minutes ago.
Doesn't matter. Give me another one. When they put all the drugs in the car.
Yeah, they do the shakedown in the bar. They're taking all the shit out of people's pockets, and it's a setup, and you don't realize they're both police officers. And then
What about the thing with the snipers?
The
Yeah, I like
sniper
the
scene
sniper
was the one
scene.
I was gonna think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and then you go to the
I just
house,
don't
they have a
remember
movie, and it ends suddenly.
how the
There's all
sniper
kinds of
scene-
shit.
Yeah, well, this
Yeah.
movie's still better, so it's okay.
I was also
Yeah.
watching Bullet last night, so I'm kind of in the
Close.
mode for like
Very
for like
similar.
late 60s, early 70s crime.
Slumdog,
you know what I mean?
Slumdog, and French Connection are close for me score wise. So, but I gotta go Slumdog.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Slumdog too. So that means it's up against Mutiny on the Bounty. What do we have to say about that one?
I say this above. I like Millionaire about it a lot, but I do think this is more unique.
Yeah, it is
that
more
feels
unique,
of its
isn't it?
time, but of that time means less, in my opinion, in terms of this feels so much more distinct from the other
Tucker,
Best Picture
can you
winners,
just
and that's very
reword
important.
that to say that old movies are bad?
Yeah.
No.
Can you just
Why
say
would
that?
I say that? No, I don't think
Can I get that on record?
No.
So
I will
one
not say
vote,
it
one
into
vote
your
for
lapel.
above.
Very
Yeah, don't-
clearly
yeah.
enunciate.
Oh, I mean,
See,
my score from Mutiny on the Bounty was higher, and yeah, I was playing a lot of defense for Slumdog Millionaire in this episode, but I don't think it's perfect by any means. I think it has its shortcomings, as were characterized by one or two or three of you throughout this review. So
Where does
Someone
it
else say-
go
say.
though?
Here's a
Where does
question
it
for you,
go?
yeah,
Do you think that the plot of God of War Ragnarok is better than Mutiny on the Bounty?
I haven't played God of War Ragnarok yet, but yes.
I'm gonna put the. Now here's a funny truth about my life. I was
Yeah.
buying Blu-rays the other day. What do I see? A Mutiny on the Bounty Blu-ray, $17. I say I can't swing that. So
Really?
I'm buying a lot. So they all need to be single-digit dollar values, right?
Right.
But I was reflecting to myself in the Blu-ray aisle of Bull Moose. I was reflecting to myself. Mutiny
That's
on
a
the
fake
Bounty
story. That's
was
a Simpsons ass store right there.
I was reflecting to myself. Mutiny on the Bounty is a really great film. But I think a lot of why it was impressive to me is because it came out in what 1865 or whenever
Something
it
like
came out.
that.
Close to
Yeah.
It was
Right
made.
after the
It was
Civil
made
War, I think, yeah.
contemporaneously to when they were actually sailing around there in the middle of the Atlantic
Yeah, it's a
Ocean.
documentary.
Like, the map is
It's
going
like
in all the
Boyhood.
squigglies.
Yeah.
But so I think that the plot there is quite compelling. I think the performances are quite compelling, and when we go back to a film of that era, I think it stands up alongside something like All Quiet on the Western Front in the sense that it feels timeless. And I think that the ability of a film from that era to feel timeless counts for a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are damn compelling arguments from you and Tucker.
That's a good.
But at the
argument.
but,
oh, he's got.
but at the same time,
There's a big butt coming.
Quest for the Bestest
I won't turn around then.
is about the canon of Best Picture winners. And so it feeling timeless, I think, puts it high in the canon of Best Picture winners, but I think this feeling unique puts it higher than that. But at the same time, what did we say about Slumdog Millionaire? It feels very of its era. And I think there's a distinct possibility that this will continue to age worse stylistically, despite it being important. It's like if I was wearing Jenko jeans right now, I'd be like, what is it, 1992?
You'd be the coolest guy in town. That's what you'd be.
So here's after waffling, because I hadn't decided, so I figured I'd just start talking and come to a conclusion.
Right.
as
You
I-
just think
as I was
out loud
talking.
for a little while, and then you'd understand.
My vote is Mutiny on the Bounty.
Okay, Timo, what's your vote?
I'm gonna go Mutiny on the Bounty because the rage-inducingness of that movie. That movie induced a lot of rage in me, and that was enjoyable. So I think I'll agree with Abram on this one. They're really close though. That when you bring up the timeless, the timed, and the timelessness of both of these movies.
Timelessness and timefulness.
Yeah. But I'll just make a
For the-
choice. Mutiny on the Bounty.
For the sake of not throwing it to the audience, because
don't
we
be
do
a
too much.
coward.
We rely on them too much. I'm gonna stick with my scores. I'm gonna stick by the numbers here. The numbers don't lie, folks. I'm gonna go Mutiny on the Bounty.
I'm lying about my numbers if you look closely, but that's okay.
Oh, that's okay. They can change, but the numbers don't lie. They change, but they don't lie.
So it's below Millionaire on the Bounty.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, do you
All
want to? Are you gonna agree? Tucker? Your voice does not deserve to be silenced just by being the
I
last
said
one to speak.
first thing when
Oh.
we started this discussion, I said above Millionaire on the Bounty. Even though
Because it's more unique.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Well,
Which is a fair argument.
yeah, I think so. I think what Abram said really encapsulates a lot of how to think about it.
Yeah.
As usual.
Yeah. Abram was really both sidesing it against himself for some reason.
Well, we figured out the new space. Where does that space at, Timo Nelson?
We are going to put Slumdog Millionaire at spot number 42 on the list. So for the 84th episode, the movie goes at spot 42, which means it's exactly halfway in the middle.
That's true.
Hang on.
Good.
I'm
Indeed
doing the
it
math
is.
in my head.
Yep.
The dial-up's going on through Tucker's brain.
Why don't
Well,
we spin that
perfect.
funky wheel, white boys?
We got 10 movies left. Can you guys believe that?
10.
10 left.
But don't fear, because this goes... Fucking Oscar season is about to double the number of episodes.
Yeah, absolutely it
so
is.
do not
Yes.
fear.
If
Yeah.
you think we're gonna squirm away without doing the Oscar nominees, you're sorely wrong.
And
Yeah.
and also these fucking sickos I do the show with have a crazy idea of what's happening next. So do not fear. Is all I will say.
Woo-hoo!
Tanner, sing for me.
Wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital? Is it on real? Wheel, what's your deal?
And right in the middle of the possibilities is the number 5.
Oh, we're very centered in this episode, aren't we? Right in the middle. What we got in the middle of the list, we got the middle of the remaining movies list. Everyone was right in the middle of his own argument.
Is that the hourly ball?
Yeah.
That's a joke you guys will get soon. Don't worry.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get it tomorrow night. All right. Right now, we have got a next movie to talk about, boys. It's gonna be a doozy. It's gonna be a great one. We're gonna be talking about 1967, the Best Picture winner, directed by Norman Jewison. Starring Rod Steiger, Warren Oates, and Sidney Poitier. We'll be talking about In the Heat of the Night.
In the heat of
In
the night.
heat of
This
the
movie I want
night.
to see.
I love
This is
this
a movie I
movie.
want to watch.
It's a movie
For once.
I want to watch.
Finally.
Crime! It's crime, baby!
Another crime.
Crime.
It's more detective crime.
Crime.
Not like
He got
Oh.
another one. He just pulled out a third crime Blu-ray.
All these props. That's a detective story, too. Look at that.
Sure. All right, boys. In the Heat of the Night. Any thoughts?
I haven't seen it before.
Haven't seen it
Highly
before.
anticipating it.
Mm-hmm.
In the heat of the night, I put on a fan.
I take off my
Tucker,
clothes.
you're the only one who's seen this before, I believe.
I have. Yeah. It's on
Yes.
I have it on Criterion Collection.
fantastic. I can't
I
wait to
watched
watch
it
it
for class.
on physical media. I love physical media.
Ooh.
Look at all these physical media.
Oh my God, he's pulling out more
Look
movies.
at him.
Crime.
Look at him.
The Thing, the crime movie.
The thing.
Well,
All right.
We did it,
My
boys.
stuff.
This is a long episode.
yeah,
It was.
enjoyable discussion. Enjoyable movie, enjoyable discussion. We, unfortunately, we're not going to have the crazy editing of Slumdog Millionaire in this episode for the Quest for the Bestest, but maybe when you see in the theaters, you'll sit down, the lights will go dark, and some tense music will pull up, and it says, Backlog Banter Presents. Then you'll get to watch a movie that has some crazy-ass editing in it.
Yeah.
When we produce a film, a feature film
Yes.
for theaters, holy
Backlog Banter
crap.
Studios.
Let's go.
BLBS, baby.
Yes.
Oh,
It's back.
that's it. That's it.
We'll
Cut the
see you in the
stream. Cut the
episode.
stream.
We'll see you next time for In the Heat of the Night. Until then, peace.
A young, sweaty Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Something I only see in my memories.
Young, sweaty Tom
Something you
Hanks.
always see in your dreams.
His body engulfing yours. Candlelight.
Engulfing is not a particularly erotic word, Tanner.
No, he's absorbing you.
It is
become
normally a Tanner.
twice as large.